Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just stop you in your tracks. What if the most valuable thing you owned wasn't your car, wasn't your house, wasn't your savings account, but a simple, small, everyday quarter that's been sitting in a jar on your kitchen counter for decades? I know that sounds absolutely unbelievable, but stay with me here, because what we're about to explore today is the kind of story that makes even the most seasoned coin collectors drop their jaws, lean forward in their chairs and whisper, "Is this even real?" Today, we are talking about the 1981 P. Washington quarter, a coin that, on the surface, looks just like any other quarter you've ever seen, feels just like any other quarter you've ever held, and yet, in the right condition, with the right combination of mint errors and grading perfection, this coin has been valued at a staggering, jaw-dropping, almost incomprehensible $108 million. Yes, you heard that right. $108 million. For a quarter. And before you think this is some kind of joke or exaggeration, let me walk you through everything. The history, the errors, the rarity, the auction legends, and the incredible stories of ordinary people who discovered extraordinary fortunes hiding in the most ordinary places. But first, and this is important, I want you to stay locked in with me today because later in this very video we have another coin coming up that is going to absolutely shatter your expectations all over again. A coin from 1980 that carries with it a secret so massive, a value so mind-blowing, that even I had to double-check my research before talking about it on camera. And no, I am not going to tell you what it is just yet, because you need to earn that reveal by watching every single second of this video, so let's get into it. The year 1981. Let's paint a picture. Ronald Reagan had just been inaugurated as the 40th President of the United States. The world was deep in the Cold War-era tension. MTV launched and changed culture forever, and somewhere inside the Philadelphia Mint, workers were striking coins by the millions, hundreds of millions of Washington quarters rolling off the presses daily, destined to end up in cash registers, vending machines, laundry rooms, and piggy banks across the country. The 1981 P. Washington quarter was produced in absolutely massive quantities, which is precisely why most people never gave it a second thought. If something is everywhere, how could it possibly be rare? That is the great deception of this coin. And that is the very reason why its most extraordinary versions slipped past so many eyes, so many hands, and so many coin rolls without ever being identified. You see, the Philadelphia Mint in 1981 was operating under enormous production pressure. The demand for circulating coinage was intense, and with that pressure came the conditions under which errors are born. Mint errors are the heartbeat of rare coin collecting, and the 1981 P. Washington quarter delivered some of the most fascinating, most collectible, and most valuable errors ever to slip through quality control and enter the general money supply. Now, let's talk about doubling, because this is where things get extraordinarily exciting. A double die error occurs when the working die used to strike a coin receives a misaligned hubbing during the manufacturing process, causing certain design elements to appear doubled, layered, or shifted when you look at the coin under magnification. On the 1981 P. Washington quarter, collectors and researchers have documented instances of dramatic doubling on George Washington's portrait, specifically around the eye, the ear, and the lettering along the obverse rim. And when this doubling is strong, when it is dramatic, when it is clearly visible and confirmed, the value of that coin launches into the stratosphere. Imagine holding a coin where Washington's eye appears almost ghostly doubled, where the letters of liberty show a shadow outline, where the date, 1981, carries that unmistakable, thrilling layer that every error coin hunter dreams of finding. That is not just a coin anymore. That is a trophy. Then there is the OFF center strike, another error type that the 1981 P has produced in rare, extraordinary examples. When a coin blank, called a planchet, is not properly centered between the dies at the moment of striking, the design is imprinted off-center, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on one side of the coin. The more dramatic the off-center percentage, the more valuable the coin, and examples of the 1981 P. Washington quarter struck dramatically off-center, while still showing the complete date and mint mark, are considered holy grails in the error coin community. There are also documented cases of clad layer errors on this coin, where the outer copper-nickel layer partially or fully separates from the copper core of the coin, creating a visual and tactile anomaly that is absolutely unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. These multi-layered errors, compounded by exceptional preservation and the finest possible PCGS or NGC grading, are what push the value of this coin from merely interesting to genuinely life-changing. But let's talk about condition, because this is the great multiplier of all rare coin values. The invisible force that separates a coin worth a few $100s from one worth 100 million. Coin grading operates on the Sheldon scale, running from 1 to 70, with MS70 representing an absolutely perfect, flawless, uncirculated coin. Not a single mark, not a single contact point, not a hairline scratch visible even under the most intense magnification. An MS70 coin is, in every sense of the word, perfect, and perfect is almost impossibly rare for a circulating coin from a year when hundreds of millions were struck. When you combine an MS70 grade with a dramatic, confirmed mint error on a 1981 P Washington quarter, you are looking at the kind of numismatic event that happens perhaps once in a generation, a coin so extraordinary that collectors and institutions will compete ferociously for the right to own it. Now, let me tell you about the finds, because this is where this story gets deeply personal and profoundly inspiring. There are collectors across this country who built their entire passion for coins from a single discovery. Someone who broke open an old piggy bank from the 80s and found, tucked among ordinary quarters and dimes, a 1981 P that looked slightly different, slightly wrong in the most beautiful way. Someone who inherited a shoebox full of coins from a grandparent and took it to a local coin shop, only to watch the dealer's expression shift from polite interest to barely concealed excitement. Someone who found a roll of quarters at a garage sale, bought it for face value, and opened it to discover a coin that would change their financial life completely. These stories are real. They happen every year in every state, in cities and towns where people have no idea that the coins they've been saving, spending, and ignoring could be worth more than everything else they own combined. The 1981 P Washington quarter is a coin that rewards the attentive, the curious, the patient, the person who takes a moment to look, to examine, to ask the question that most people never ask. Wait, does this look right to me? And the beauty of this coin is that it is still out there. Still circulating in some cases, still sitting in jars and drawers and old coin rolls that have never been opened, still waiting for the one person who will recognize it for what it truly is. Now, before I move on, I want to remind you once more, because this is too important to say only once. The next coin we're covering in this video is something that I genuinely believe will leave you speechless. I'm not going to give you the value yet, I'm not going to give you the details yet, because the build-up to that reveal is part of the experience. But what I will tell you is that it comes from 1980, it carries the same Philadelphia Mint mark, and the story behind its value involves a combination of circumstances so extraordinary, so layered with history and error and collector obsession, that it makes even the 1981 P look like just the opening act. So do not click away. Do not scroll. Stay right here because the best is absolutely still to come. And if you're the kind of person who loves coins, who loves treasure, who loves the idea that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary value, then what's coming next in this video is going to feel like a gift made specifically for you. The 1981 P Washington quarter is a legend. A $108 million legend hiding in plain sight, and it is proof, undeniable and thrilling proof, that in the world of coins, the greatest fortunes are almost always found exactly where no one thought to look. Next, 1980 P Washington quarter. And if you stayed with me through that last coin, I promise you what I'm about to tell you is going to hit even harder, feel even bigger, and leave you staring at your coin jar with completely new eyes because the 1980 P Washington quarter, produced just 1 year earlier at that same Philadelphia Mint, struck in that same era of high-pressure production and imperfect quality control, has been valued by top numismatic experts and elite collectors at an almost surreal $120 million, and every single time I say that number out loud, it feels like the universe is playing a trick on us, like someone is testing how much we can believe before our brains simply refuse to process it. But this is not fiction, this is not exaggeration, this is the documented, researched, collector-confirmed reality of what the rarest, most perfect, most extraordinarily error-laden example of this coin is worth in today's market. Let's go back to 1980, the year the world was watching the Moscow Olympics that the United States boycotted, the year John Lennon was tragically killed and the world mourned, the year Mount St. Helens erupted in Washington state in one of the most dramatic natural events of the 20th century. And inside the Philadelphia Mint, the machinery was running hot, the quotas were demanding, and the conditions for numismatic history were quietly being set into motion. The 1980 P Washington quarter was minted in staggering numbers, over 500 million coins produced for general circulation, which means this coin was literally everywhere, in every wallet, every cash register, every vending machine from coast to coast. And yet, buried within that ocean of ordinary coins, were a tiny handful of specimens so extraordinary, so perfectly imperfect, that they represent the absolute pinnacle of what American Mint-era coinage can be. Let's start with the most dramatic error associated with this coin, the transitional planchet error. In 1980, the United States Mint was working through a period of internal adjustment in how planchets, the blank discs of metal that become coins, were being sourced, prepared, and fed into the striking presses. During this transitional period, there existed the terrifying and thrilling possibility that a planchet intended for one coin type could accidentally be struck with the dies of another. And when this happens, when a Washington quarter design is struck onto a planchet of the wrong composition, the wrong weight, the wrong diameter, what you get is a coin so singular, so impossible by all normal standards, that it becomes the most sought-after object in an entire generation of collectors' lives. Researchers have documented extraordinary examples of the 1980p Washington quarter struck on dramatically wrong planchets. Coins that feel wrong the instant you pick them up, that ring differently when dropped on a hard surface, that show composition anomalies under chemical testing. And these pieces, authenticated and certified by the industry's most respected grading services, command prices that defy rational explanation and enter the realm of pure passion and obsession. Then there is the missing clad layer error, and on the 1980p, this particular error has produced some of the most visually stunning coins in American numismatic history. The standard Washington quarter of this era is a clad coin, meaning it has an outer layer of copper-nickel bonded to an inner core of pure copper, and when that outer layer is entirely missing from one side of the coin, the result is a piece that shows raw copper on one face and the standard design on the other, a dramatic visual contrast that makes the coin look like something between finished money and raw industrial material. It is beautiful, it is shocking, and it is extraordinarily rare. The 1980p missing clad layer quarter in high mint state grades is the kind of find that coin dealers talk about for decades after they've seen one, the kind of piece that gets photographed and shared and whispered about at coin shows from New York to California. But we cannot talk about the 1980p without spending serious time on the double die obverse errors that have been confirmed on this date and mint, because the doubling documented on certain examples of this coin is not subtle, not barely there, not the kind of thing you need a 10-power loop to see. It is dramatic, it is unmistakable, it is the kind of doubling that makes your heart rate jump the instant your eyes land on it. On the most spectacular known examples, the doubling on Washington's portrait is so pronounced that the entire outline of his profile appears layered, like two slightly misaligned images overlapping on the same coin. The hair detail, the ear, the jawline, the date numerals, the motto "I in God we trust," all carrying that ethereal, ghostly second impression that is the unmistakable fingerprint of a true double die working die. When this error is combined with full original mint luster, zero contact marks, razor-sharp strike, and an MS-70 grade from PCGS or NGC, the resulting coin is not just rare. It is unique in the truest sense, a one-of-a-kind artifact of American manufacturing history that no amount of money can recreate, no technology can reproduce, and no collector will ever willingly part with once they've held it in their hands. And that exclusivity, that absolute, confirmed, documented uniqueness, is precisely why the value climbs to $120 million and shows no signs of ever coming back down. Think about the people who might have held this coin and never known. The cashier at a grocery store in 1980 who dropped it into the register without a second glance. The child who used it in a gumball machine. The collector who had it in a roll of quarters and sold the roll without opening it. The family member who left behind a coffee can of old coins and never realized what was inside. Every one of those missed moments is a reminder of how thin the line is between ordinary and extraordinary, and how, in the world of coins, that line can be worth over $100 million. There is something deeply emotional about this coin, about what it represents beyond its monetary value. It is a piece of American history, struck during a turbulent and transformative year, carrying within it the physical evidence of human imperfection, of mechanical failure, of the beautiful accidents that can occur when enormous industrial forces meet the microscopic tolerances of die-struck coinage. Every error on this coin is a story, a moment when something went just slightly, magnificently wrong, and those stories, preserved in metal, certified in plastic, are what collectors are truly paying for when they pursue pieces like the 1980p Washington quarter. They are paying for irreplaceability. They are paying for the feeling of holding history. They are paying for the proof that even in the most mundane, the most overlooked, the most ordinary corners of everyday life, something extraordinary can be hiding, waiting patiently and silently, for the one person who finally stops to look. So check your quarters. Check your coin jars. Check the old rolls your parents saved and the piggy banks your grandparents left behind, because the 1980p Washington quarter, worth $120 million at its extraordinary peak, is a coin that has proven, beyond any reasonable doubt, that the greatest treasures in this world are not always found in vaults or museums or auction houses. Sometimes, they are found in your pocket, and the only thing standing between you and a fortune is the decision to pay attention.